What if there was a mathematical formula, kind of like a secret weapon, used by the world's best investors and gamblers to get the absolute maximum long-term growth on their money? It's a formula so powerful, they call it Fortune's formula, but it's so dangerous that if you use it wrong, you're pretty much guaranteed to go broke. We're talking, of course, about the Kelly Criterion. So let's imagine you have an edge. It could be anything, a stock you've researched like crazy, a weirdly biased coin, whatever. You know you're going to win more than you lose in the long run. That's the easy part. The real billion-dollar question, the one that really separates the winners from the losers, is how much of your money do you actually risk on each play? And that's the dilemma, right? It's this perfect balancing act. If you bet too little, sure, it's safe, but your growth is going to be just agonizingly slow. You're leaving so much money on the table. But if you bet too much, whoa, it's an exciting ride for sure, but the volatility is insane, and you have a really, really high risk of ruin. And by ruin, I mean losing everything. So where's that sweet spot between being too cautious and just way too reckless? Well, the answer, and this is the crazy part, it didn't come from some Wall Street quant or a Vegas pro. Nope. It came from a physicist at Bell Labs who was working on long-distance telephone signals. Okay, so check out this journey. It's 1956, and this guy, John Kelly Jr., he's trying to figure out how to reduce noise on phone lines. He develops this math for information theory, and then has this light bulb moment. He realizes this same math could be used to figure out how to maximize a gambler's money over time. Just a few years later, this brilliant mathematician, Ed Thorpe, reads Kelly's paper and uses it to invent one of the first card-counting systems for blackjack. And now, today, that same core idea is a massive tool in high-level finance, sports betting, you name it. So what is this magic formula? I know it looks like math, but it's actually super intuitive. So F star, that's just the perfect slice of your money to bet. Not too much, not too little. P is just your probability of winning. So if you've got a 60% chance, P is 0.6. Simple. And B is the odds you're getting. Let's say you bet $1, and if you win, you get your dollar back plus 2 more. Your net odds, B, would be 2. The formula just perfectly balances how likely you are to win against how much you get paid if you do. And here's the core promise, what this thing actually does. It is not about maximizing your profit on the very next bet. No. This is all about playing the long game. It's been mathematically proven to give you the absolute highest long-term exponential growth rate for your money. And just as important, it's designed to keep you from going broke. As long as there's any uncertainty, the formula will never ever tell you to bet 100% of your money. Okay, that all sounds great in a textbook, but does it actually work in the real world? Oh yeah, let's talk about some of the legends who've used these exact principles to build absolute fortunes. We gotta start with the pioneer himself, Ed Thorpe. He's the one who took this theory and proved it worked in the casinos. But it goes way beyond him. Think about Bill Benter. He built this insane computer model for horse racing in Hong Kong, used a fractional Kelly strategy, and reportedly pulled in a 24% ROI for years. They all understood what Thorpe says here. Finding an edge is just step one. Knowing how much to bet, that's the real secret sauce. And then you have Warren Buffett. Now, he's probably not sitting there with a calculator punching it in the Kelly formula, but his entire philosophy is pure Kelly in spirit. He doesn't diversify into hundreds of stocks. No way. He makes huge, concentrated bets on the few companies he understands inside and out. We're talking about his massive plays in American Express or Coca-Cola. When he feels he has a huge edge, he bets big. And, look at this chart. The result is just decades of compounding growth that absolutely crushes the market. And this right here, this little snapshot from 2008, shows you exactly what that looks like. Just look at those numbers. Over 8% of his entire portfolio in one company, ConocoPhillips. Another 8% in Procter & Gamble. Any normal financial advisor would have a heart attack seeing that. They'd say it's way too risky. But to a Kelly thinker, if you have that much confidence in your edge, you don't water down your best ideas. You lean into them. So, if this thing is so amazing, why isn't every single person using it? Well, because the pure, full-strength Kelly Criterion has a dark side. A really, really terrifying dark side. Here's the catch. While Kelly is designed to maximize your growth in the long term, it does that by embracing just brutal short-term volatility. If you follow the formula perfectly, you could have these absolutely gut-wrenching drawdowns where your wealth gets cut by 30, 40, even 50% or more. The math says it's the right move, but honestly, how many people have the stomach to watch half their money vanish and still stick to the system? Almost no one.
And this is where the pros make a really smart adjustment. They figured out a way to get the power of Kelly, but, tame the beast so they can actually sleep at night.
And this slide just illustrates the solution so perfectly. Look at this trade-off. If you use what's called half Kelly, so you bet just half of what the full formula tells you to, your growth rate drops a bit, from about 2% to 1.5%. Okay, so you give up about a quarter of your potential growth, but look what you get. Your probability of total ruin plummets from 1 in 100 all the way down to 1 in 740,000. That's an unbelievable increase in safety for a pretty small hit to your growth. It's a no-brainer.
So that's the big idea. It's called fractional Kelly. It's just a simple rule of thumb. You do the math, you figure out the optimal bet size, and then you just bet a fraction of that. Maybe half, maybe a quarter. This is your dial to turn down that insane volatility to a level you can actually live with. And hey, don't just take it from me. Listen to Ed Thorpe himself. After decades of doing this for real, he said that pretty much everyone prefers the psychological comfort of half Kelly. It lets you stay in the game and use the powerful logic without the constant gnawing fear of a catastrophic loss.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. How can we take this theory and turn it into a practical playbook that you can actually use to think about decisions today?
Here is the whole philosophy in 4 simple rules. First, and this is non-negotiable, you have to find a real, verifiable edge. If you don't have one, the right bet size is 0. Don't play. Second, be humble. Be conservative when you're estimating your chances of winning. Getting that wrong can be catastrophic. Third, always start with a fractional strategy. Half Kelly, quarter Kelly, that's the sane way to do it. And finally, the #1 rule of all, never, ever overbet. The second you bet even a tiny bit more than the full Kelly amount, you not only increase your risk of ruin, you actually start to decrease your long-term growth. It's the worst of all possible worlds.
So you see, in the end, the Kelly Criterion is so much more than a formula. It's a whole philosophy about the deep connection between risk, confidence, and growth. It forces you to be honest about your edge and then act on it rationally. So I guess the real question it leaves us with is, what's your philosophy for handling risk when the stakes are high?